For the last 7 months, I've been developing my first full game called My Cat Mouse. It's a single screen platformer inspired off a lot of games from the 80s, including NES and arcade games, but with the speedrunning twist. As this was my first full game, a lot of conversations were had with my brother Wyatt from Cake Neck Games about how to make this game work the way I wanted. After the game got to an acceptable state, I was invited to come join the Alaska Dev Alliance and table at the Arctic Comic Con 2025 convention in Anchorage, Alaska. So when that opportunity was offered to me, I knew I needed to have the right controller. So I ordered 4 of these generic NES style controllers off eBay from some random person for $10. These controllers weren't great. Wyatt begged me to not use them, but once it got in front of people, a lot of people really enjoyed the controllers. And I think that's for one reason. Because in today's world of complex controllers and multi-mapping every button, we sometimes forget that games used to be made on controllers like this, where you have maybe 2 or 3 buttons total in order to input everything you want. And there's something beautiful about designing those games. So let's take a look at some games over the last 15 years that have used this or less for controls. So let's start with the most recent example, but also the one that I think is most in line with classic NES gameplay designs. Micro Mages. Developed in 2019 by Morphcat Games, you may be curious why the most recent one, it has the most in line with classic retro games. Well, because it is an NES game. Not only did they make an executable game that captures that spirit in a Windows exe file, but they also developed it to where they put it on a cartridge for an NES and you're able to play it on there. Every time you buy the exe, in the game files, there is an NES ROM that you can load up into your emulator of choice, and they documented the whole background of that project in a really good YouTube video that's going to be linked down below. I recommend it for any game devs, especially if you're starting out. Back to the controls. Like many aspects of the game, the controls are very similar to what you would expect from an NES game. You have your A button to jump and your B button to cast spells. You can combine the B button with the D-pad to be able to point your spells in other directions. Now you may be wondering, okay, cool, it's an NES game that has 2 buttons, 1 jumps, 1 attacks. Like, that's nothing new. What makes this game so great? Why would you recommend it? Frankly, the juice. When they designed this game, they took advantage of the fact that there are 34 years of technical understanding of this console to be able to make this game feel so good. Incorporating wall jumps and waiting animations, it never feels like an input has any delay or lag. And let me just focus on navigating the frankly phenomenally built levels. This feels in stark contrast to many platformers from the era, where they may have been good for the time, but they're not holding up now, and rather feels more in line with a lot of modern platformers that you see in that retro revival wave, like Celeste. Plus, if you hit the down button, you get this nifty little wizard rave. Now, most people have probably never held a controller with less buttons than an NES controller, but there was a time where 1 joystick and a single button was king. The Atari 2600 is the one that immediately jumps to my mind, but there's plenty of classic games like Dig Dug and Space Invaders that all utilize just movement and a single button. But as we got closer to the modern day and controllers started getting more and more complex, we started seeing less and less of those kinds of games. But then came Downwell. Released in 2014 and developed by Mopin, Downwell is what I would call an anti-platformer, mixed with roguelike elements where your whole goal is to get to the bottom of a bottomless well with your gun boots. As usual, your D-pad will control your movements, and your single button will control your gun boots. Now, the magic of this game lies in the fact that the A button does not control your jump, but your gun boots. So let me paint you a picture. Every run starts the same way. Taro drops from the top of the screen, the level displays, and you land on the first platformer. So you do what you would expect to do. You press A, and guess what happens? You jump. Cool. Now the magic really happens when you press A again. All of a sudden, a thump of audio fires off as a burst of bullets shoots forth from your boot, hovering you in the air and destroying the block below you. And then you let go or you run out of ammo and you start to drop. That distinction there is the key to Downwell, because you have one button and you have ultimately two actions that you can do with that button. You can shoot or you can drop. And by having such a simple set of controls, it allows you to have so many choices about how you want to play without a ton of time. Do you want to just kill everything in a 5-mile radius? Do you want to destroy blocks that enemies are attached to so they drop off screen so that they're not your problem? Do you want to play Super Mario Bros. And just bounce off everybody's heads and destroy them that way? Or do you want to have gravity take the wheel and just try to dodge everybody on the way to the exit? The game, by giving you so few options, but options are very versatile in how you can apply them, allows you to jump in, learn the controls fast, and start expressing yourself. None of those 4 play styles have to be your sole one. You can just kind of bounce between whichever ones you want. It's because of this that the game allows you to stop asking, how do I play? Very quickly, the question you get to ask is, how do I want to play? But what if you made an arcade game that would only use one button, yet be just as addictive as classic arcade shooters? Now, I'm not talking about the Flappy Bird arcade ports, and I'm not talking about that game that pops up when you don't have internet on Chrome. I'm talking about the 2016 game Switch and Shoot by Matthew Glanville. This game has been one of my pleasant addictions since I bought the game for the first time last year. The game presents like a traditional space shmup, with you flying headlong into a horde of enemies, but with the twist that your ship is careening to the right. Can a game have stick drift without stick? If the dev says so. So you press the only button you have, trying to stop from going all the way to the right. And all of a sudden you're going to the left as a bullet shoots out from the front of your ship, and you go to the left. You wrap around the screen and you start to realize that this game is not about killing everything. It's about staying in control of your ship. There are 3 rules. Your ship will keep moving, you need to keep shooting, and you need to grab the power-ups. When I tell you that the game does so much for me with this simple one-button concept, in comparison to games that use a full Xbox controller with multi-layered systems and mechanics, is not an exaggeration. Because the secret sauce of Switch and Shoot, panic. This game instills panic by you not fully being in control. It reminds me a lot of games like QWOP and I Am Toast, where the controls actively fight against you, but boils this genre down to its most basic level. You have to lock in from the jump, and as more and more enemies come towards you, the tension cranks up because you are barely in control of the ship as is, and one hit, regardless of if you have every power-up in the game, sends you back to the beginning. It's a game where every victory feels earned, and I keep telling myself I need to lock in and get that new high score. It's a game that boils down arcade gameplay to the most simplest form, just saying, I got one button, we're moving back and forth, and we're going to stay alive and get that high score. So at this point, we've basically ripped controls down to basically nothing, capturing the magic of a classic NES style game, moving to a single button palette that opens up a world of choice for the players, to frantic button mashing, because that's all you literally can do. I think there's a magic to the simplicity of these games in that it allows players to play the game and not learn a complex set of mechanics. And then you make the game fit the feel of the controls. Why make a bunch of buttons to confuse your players when you can hand someone the controller and they'll understand it instantly? If you liked any of the games I talked about today, I've left links for them down below for itch and Steam if applicable. I get nothing from them. I just think they're phenomenal games. Also, I've placed a link for my game, My Cat Malice, which will be releasing August 1st for free on itch. Thank you for watching. Hee hee hee.